moment has arrived. Today, we are surrendering our spouses.
That's a lot to surrender right there.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on with the spouses.
I've already pre-asked the Lord to give me a filter. I'm worried sometimes that I come off really harsh about my husband. I love him.
They are so cute together, truly. It's super cute.
We have a very childlike relationship.
They do.
So.
It's very playful.
It's very...
And that's what she's trying to capture here.
We tease each other relentlessly. But
if
you don't know us, it comes off like we don't like each other.
My husband and I flirt in economical terms. We are nerds. Emily's like, the audacity. This is a weird relationship, but it seems to work for you too. And the kids are cute, so it's fine.
I did tell Jill her next kid has to be ugly because I can't take all of the cute at her house right now. I'm sorry, Leo.
I
with
told
his
her
speaking is...
she needs to man up. So
I can't. They're cute. They're too precious.
It's fine. We'll walk through all this today. Perhaps you should surrender my children.
That's another episode.
Cliffhangers. All right. Well, yep, we're going to walk you through surrendering your spouse and just learning how the Lord really designed marriage and how he's calling you to move into that space through his eyes.
We invite you to the Summer of Surrender. You didn't do the hands!
Dang it.
We've talked about it for the last 4 episodes!
Full disclosure, I'm thinking about food.
Jill and I have been working for over 12 hours.
We really like you guys, okay? This is very important to us that we do this work for the Lord.
Yep.
And
our time is limited because we're mothers.
Yep. And the Lord has blessed us with time today. He even sent my kids and my husband off to do something else.
He made the time.
So that we had extra time. He seemed to know that we would have technology problems. It's fine. Anyway, surrendering your spouses. This is hard because the world gives us really crazy expectations for relationships.
Yeah.
Just specifically romantic ones. In which, again, like we talked about in the friendship one last time, and basically everything else, we're basically identifying, I think, false idols in life. That's kind of what the Lord has been bringing up for us, is that we idolize relationships, and while your two souls became one in marriage, and you're inextricably bound till death do you part, it's not like that. You're still... two people with two individual gifts brought together by the Lord to be woven within one another. And it's like, hey, we take that to our emotions need to be synced and everything needs to come together and it gets all weird and you're like, nope. Nope. Sometimes you just have to say, God, am I right or wrong on this one? Change my heart or change the circumstances. And if your spouse chooses not to be vulnerable, sometimes you got to step out and do it and just be like, okay, I don't know what about this was hard for you, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on in your heart right now, but I'm sorry. I love you, and how can I pray for you?
Yeah. A lot of when there's hardship, a lot of it is I'm here when you're ready.
And being okay with that. It's a very... There's a big difference between, in hardship saying that, saying, like, I'm here when you're ready, and meaning it.
Well, especially because, like, I know for me, and I think for you too, we got a problem, let's fix it, like, now.
Yes.
And
well, yes. I am, but I gotta process it. I'm not a good spontaneous arguer. And I never did debate team. So if Haley and I ever got in an argument, I'd be like, shh, I'm going on a walk with Jesus. I'll be back. Have my thoughts together then.
And I will lose all my thoughts, so I'll write them down.
1, 2.
Maybe I'll just record myself and be like, listen.
I externally processed everything into this device. There you go, here's my argument. Regardless, Haley and I aren't married, so it's irrelevant.
Yeah. And we don't argue like that.
No, I tend to avoid it.
But I also, so that's kind of funny though, but because we've learned how to communicate, right? And so I know I can't. I have to approach Jill like a little kitten.
No.
I have to be gentle with her, or she's gonna get her feelings hurt and shut down. And much
It's so
to
true.
that effect.
I'm a sensitive flower.
You have to learn how to communicate with your spouse, and
That's
I think
so
I've
true.
talked about that before on the podcast. Braden and I did a lot of learning in our first year and a half of marriage, and this poor man, I got pregnant right after we got married, and so he became a husband and a stepfather and a biological father with a really, really irrational wife.
Yes,
less than a month after marriage, so
heard pregnant Haley is
I
wild.
was fine with Charlotte. My boys did something to me. I was not kind. I was really, really, really emotional. Highly embarrassed of the stories that are out there, actually. But, actually one of the
All
things
that
that Braden teases me about
testosterone
relentlessly.
Too much for you.
Yeah, pretty much. But all that to say, I had to learn how to communicate with Braden, and that's really what makes us so successful as a couple is I know how to approach my husband so that he's not going to get his feelings hurt or get defensive or, whatever. And I had to surrender my feelings, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I come on a little strong, so I had to dial that back when talking to Braden about something that was important to me.
And that's surrendering your tendencies, your impulses. I think
Mm-hmm.
also we can get stuck in this mindset that we can perfect our husband.
Mm.
And that is not our job, or your wife if you're a guy listening to this, but you can't perfect your spouse. It's not your job.
Mm-hmm.
This vocation as a spouse will sanctify you. That's the point.
Yep.
But it's also a very sacred, teeny tiny window into heaven.
Mm-hmm.
That is the beauty of marriage and the level of intimacy that you get to share with your spouse. But if you guys are on different spiritual journeys at different paces, it can become difficult, and you want them to have what you have with the Lord, or vice versa. And then we think we can control the situation, and that is certainly not the reality at all.
Mm-hmm.
All you can do is leave it up to the Lord and surrender the parts of yourself that need to be sanctified, so that when it comes to your spouse's sanctification, you can be, sometimes you are called to be the model for them of authentic love, and then they follow suit. And I think the other very important thing too is that you remember that the heart of your spouse is disposed, and I understand that there might be some extenuating circumstances or some bad situations, but in general, in a loving marriage, your spouse is disposed for good. Like, they love you and they want to do right by you, but you may disagree on what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that you can lean on, oh, well, their intentions were good. It provides this balance of accountability and accompaniment, as my mom phrased it this morning. When we were talking. It's about walking with the person and also checking them to keep them on the path. And
Lovingly.
yes, and it, like, your marriage, your spouse has to be rooted in friendship. Like, it has to be there. It can't just be a flame of lust or a flame of attraction or any of these things. It's got to be a disposition of the heart towards service and sacrificial love, because that's how God made it. And honestly, it's so much more joyful that way. And so, here's a decent example. For me, surrendering our communication, we were always very straightforward and upfront with one another. He did a very beautiful job guarding his heart and his body and his mind in Christ Jesus, when just basically throughout his whole life. So I was very blessed with that, because I didn't do that. But because he was such a good model of what I should have been, like, what I wanted to do but was never strong enough to do, I respected him so much that I could never not be honest with him. That in our relationship, we were very straightforward about everything, even before we decided to date exclusively. And that carried, into our marriage. So we were very comfortable with our communication and very comfortable with sharing things with one another. But I'm one of those people where loud chewing annoys the crap out of me. And I've mentioned this in previous episodes. But that is a Jill problem, not an Ethan problem. And so he chews loud. And it bothers me. Or it did bother me. It doesn't anymore. I don't even think about it. But I had to do two things. One, I had to recognize that this was a Jill thing, and that it wasn't his fault that his chewing bothered me. It was a pet peeve that I had for some reason. And I had to I did two things. I had to choose to tell myself, this is a you problem. You can't project this onto him, especially if I was sensitive that day, if I was grumpy that day. When it's
Could
really
you not?
easy. Yes. The tendency was there, and I would do this thing where I'd lean and I'd press my finger into my eardrum so I couldn't hear it on the side he was sitting on, just casually, like, oh, I'm just sitting here.
Resting my head.
But no, and then I would force myself to not do that and to listen to it.
Oh, man.
And to not say anything as an act of the will to break that impulse. Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, in the grand scheme.
Yep, walking up to the Lord in the throne room. I can't be
you couldn't make that man chew quieter.
Or being like, I freaked out, but come on, man. It sucks. That would be so terrible. I couldn't,
Tell me you're petty without telling me you're petty.
Yes, and that would not be, he'd be like, purgatory, now. Go get refined.
I get it. It's fine.
Time out, okay? But that's the point. When you are surrendering your spouse, and we're looking at our cycle of surrender, marriage is a cycle of vulnerability, willingness, and trust, because there are days where you don't want to be the one to get up with the kids. But you do it anyway because you love your spouse, okay? You have to trust them that they are working for the good of your family, and then be willing to trust that if they need called out, they'll be willing to receive it. Or if you say it wrong, they'll be willing to forgive you for messing up the delivery.
Yeah.
And you have to be vulnerable. Marriage is incredibly vulnerable. Ethan and I just talked the other week. I was like, I know we're married, but, there are some things that, I would rather you not see. There are just some, there are just some things that are too personal, okay? I know you've watched me push our children out, but I'm just a little uncomfortable. I'm serious. For me, it's when you're on your cycle, I'm just like, there's a lot going on. I don't want you to see me rotating through things. It's not ideal.
Oh my gosh.
Well, okay, we all have our things.
You're right. I'm just saying.
This is where I was at least vulnerable enough to tell him, I gotta wash this disc thingy out, and I just don't want you to be in here when I do that. And I was like, are you gonna shower? Because, no. It's true, it's kind of TMI, I guess, but it's the reality. Sometimes the vulnerability of marriage is hard. And for him, it's less the normal day-to-day stuff and more of the emotions. And I think that's where you just have to love your spouse really selflessly and with boundaries, but selflessly in a rightly ordered way. And they're able to be themselves and to move past their wounds and to open up a little bit more to love you as well. Sometimes you have to invest in them first.
Yeah. I would say working in ministry for the last 4 or 5 years, that's what I hear the most from specifically the women in ministry is why can't my spouse be where I'm at? And that is something you said earlier kind of took me to the comparison. That is comparison. It's just kind of the other way. Usually you're looking at comparison oh, I want to be that. But it's still comparison when you say, I want him to be here. And that's been really difficult I shouldn't say really difficult, but that's been something that's on my heart for Braden, and I have to realize his ministry looks different than mine.
And he's been given different gifts.
Right. He's still very devout. Not that I need him out here ministering and being the extrovert that I know he's not.
Right.
But it would just be, we do talk about faith, but I would like it to be deeper when we talk about faith. Mm-hmm. And I just got to understand that's not where he's at. His heart is there, but he's just not, even at, my sister and her fiance are at Engaged Encounter. And so they are actively growing in their communication. And so that's something that, Braden and I have had to learn, especially in regards to our faith. And he's had to learn not to tune me out, and I've had to learn to listen with my heart. And I think being gracious with your spouse and just taking them where they're at is so important.
It's true. And to your point, too, that's an example, right, of one of our good intentions that can go unchecked, because you don't know what seeds you'll plant, how they'll be transformed. I have seen that my spouse was transformed long before and protected even, protected from things that could have been very harmful to our marriage, that was the result of many prayers I prayed before I even knew it was him. Mm-hmm. Okay, you just don't know how God is going to write your story. It's your job to just remain where you are. There are so many saints that are like, I don't worry about the future and I don't stress about the past. I'm here in this moment, and all that matters in this moment is doing what God is asking me to do. Mm-hmm. And in your marriage, it's the same way. And that's where, your questions for this week, the things that we're going to have you reflect on are, how can I be in the present moment with my spouse? Where am I taking them for granted? Where do I make them an idol, or put them too much on a pedestal in my life? I think sometimes we also can go, oh, my husband is supposed to lead me. Mm-hmm. And sure, he is the spiritual leader of the household, but that doesn't mean, you kind of are the thermostat, right? If he is the head of the household, he's almost like the roof over you. You're in control of the temperature. Everyone feeds off of mom. Everyone feeds off the woman of the household. It's part of our nature to set the tone of things. I think that's why God gave us strong and beautiful emotions, is because we're meant to steward them well, and when we do that, it affects the atmosphere of the space around us. If we are aligning them with God, mm-hmm. and the Spirit is moving through us. And even when we make mistakes, we're able to bring back that equilibrium. They are like they are like this stronghold. Men have this strong presence in our lives. And even if you're a guy, you are that, and it doesn't, we assume that ministry looks the same as our, regulating the spiritual temperature. Mm-hmm. And that is not necessarily how that works, because, again, each man is unique, but God has given us as spouses in the sacrament of marriage, in that sanctifying grace that he's given us, and in that unifying grace, he has given us a little peek into our spouse's hearts. Mm-hmm. And it's okay for us to say, God, what's on my spouse's heart right now? How can I support him or her in their journey to you? And he might say something as simple as just let him have a beer. It sounds silly, but sometimes we can be like, you have all these terrible habits, you're gonna die of cancer. I want you to live 50 years. We say all these dramatic things because we love them, and God would be like, just enjoy them. Just mm-hmm. be a part of something with them, and let me do the rest. Just continue to be a model of virtue, and things will follow. Just because you're being asked to take the first step doesn't mean you're taking over his leadership position. Doesn't mean that you're going to override him. It just means that maybe God needs you to be the first person to witness to him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one thing that Braden and I learned. I think we took it for granted before. So I think I've mentioned on here before, about 2 years ago, I had a really scary asthma event, and it almost took my life, actually. And before that, Braden and I were busy. Our quality time was still doing other things. My mind was somewhere else, or he was thinking about what he needed to do this weekend, whatever the case may be. And so after this episode of mine, we really make sure to make our time quality. And it was sad that something so dramatic had to happen in order for us to get there. I mean, we've always been comfy with each other and enjoyed being with each other, of course. Wouldn't be married if we didn't. But it really made me appreciate the time that I do have and really not taking anything for granted.
Mm-hmm. So we want you to focus this week, Lord, how do you want me to surrender my spouse to you? Where am I holding on to them in an unhealthy way? Where am I maybe becoming an obstacle between you and them? How can I give them to you? In what ways can we strengthen our marriage? Like there's some really good prompting questions.
Maybe even look back at some of the weeks that we've already done. Mm-hmm. How can you surrender your schedule or your time or other things
your
that
finances,
get in the way? Exactly.
Your friendship.
Things that get in the way of the time with your spouse. Mm-hmm. Is there something that you are putting above your spouse that needs to be reoriented?
Mm-hmm. And how can you and your spouse grow in discernment together? Because that's pretty foundational in your marriage as well. That cycle of surrender isn't just personal. You can use it for your marriage too. You can look and say, is our intimacy with God driving this? Are we trusting? Are we vulnerable? Are we willing? Yeah. Are we discerning and detaching? And are we sacrificing for one another or our kids?
If you're not praying with your spouse, please start. I would say there's a lot of people I hear that are like, I can't pray with my spouse. It's just too intimate. And I know it's...
I laugh because there's a book by Dr. Gregory and Lisa Popcak, and what they say is that you are participating in an act of co-creation with God and renewal of your wedding vows with your spouse. That is a part of marriage, that physical consummation of marriage. That is, like, we scoff at praying with one another, but there's no way that you can fully embrace what that act has to offer and how God created it without praying with each other.
Right.
Sorry, hard truth time.
Amen or ouch?
Definitely ouchie. Indeed. I got that from a very aggressive New York bishop. He was pretty awesome. But seriously, you need to ask yourself, like, why am I unwilling to pray with my spouse, but I'm willing to vulnerably open my entire body to receive them or to give to them? Like, it makes no sense when you try to do that. So, with that being said...
Lots of things to think about.
There are so many things with your marriage, and we would love to dive into all of them. But surrendering your spouse, again, is about going back to the heart of it. Are you being intimate with God and asking Him where He needs you to work? These are so highly personal that we can share our stories and our advice and the big pitfalls, but at the end of the day, it's on you to ask the Lord where you need to go and what you need to do, because He's going to lead you in that direction and produce the fruit that needs to be produced. So get on our email list. Make sure that you're following us on your favorite podcast platforms, liking, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and ringing the notification bell so that you stay up to date when we release these new episodes. And if you're on your email list, you'll be getting these worksheets sent straight to your inbox weekly as we lead up to the launch of our Cycle of Surrender resource coming mid to late September. I don't know what September 21st is categorized as, but like fall-ish,
Yep. You don't want to miss it.
It's going to be really good, and we just want you to be ready for it. So, with that, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.